It was not so long ago that, across much of the world outside of certain remote tribes, it was uncommon to see a woman walking down the street in revealing clothing such as trousers or short garments. Many women wore hats that covered their hair, which was typically tied in a bun or braid rather than left loose. As time passed, social structures evolved. Women entered the workforce in greater numbers. Their roles shifted and their clothing changed accordingly. Under the banners of emancipation, human rights, and fashion, women's dress underwent a profound transformation. This shift led to clothing that became shorter and more form-fitting, accompanied, some would argue, by a diminishing sense of modesty. In contrast, it appears that only deeply religious Muslim women have resisted this sweeping transformation. Today, their manner of dress is often portrayed as a symbol of backwardness or oppression. Whether this perception stems from collective amnesia or from a form of Western hypocrisy, it raises an important question. Why do certain groups and movements object so strongly to the dress code of Muslim women, and what truly lies behind this concern? Over the past century and a half, women's fashion has undergone one of the most profound transformations in social history. What was once defined by long, concealing garments and strict norms of modesty has evolved into a wide spectrum of styles. This transformation did not occur in isolation. Rather, it reflects deep economic, political, cultural, and ideological shifts. In the 19th century, women's clothing in Europe and much of the world was characterized by full coverage. Dresses were typically floor-length, often accompanied by corsets, long sleeves, and head coverings. Exposure of the body was minimal and socially regulated. Clothing functioned not only as attire but as a moral code. Modesty, social status, and femininity were expressed through concealment. The first major rupture came during and after World War I. Among the most influential figures in this transformation was Coco Chanel. Her contributions included eliminating corsets and heavy structures. She promoted shorter, simpler, more functional silhouettes. She introduced masculine elements like trousers and suits into women's fashion. She popularized the little black dress, a minimalist and modern garment. Chanel's philosophy linked fashion to freedom of movement and modern identity. She helped normalize clothing that revealed the natural body shape rather than concealing it. This marked a decisive shift. Modesty was no longer defined by coverage alone, but by style and context. After World War II, fashion trends fluctuated, but generally moved toward greater bodily exposure. 1940s wartime fabric restrictions shortened garments. 1960s, the miniskirt emerged, exposing thighs for the first time in mainstream fashion. 1970s to 1990s saw normalization of trousers, swimsuits, and casual wear. Late 20th century brought widespread acceptance of tight, body-conscious clothing. The gradual shortening and increased exposure in women's clothing can be attributed to several interrelated factors. Economic and industrial change influenced fashion. Women's workforce participation played a major role. Feminist movements pushed for autonomy and practical clothing. Media and popular culture normalized new ideals of beauty and style. Designers and the fashion industry commercialized and spread these trends. In contrast to Western fashion trends, many Muslim women have maintained clothing styles emphasizing modesty, such as the hijab, abaya, or niqab. These garments typically cover most of the body, de-emphasize physical shape, and reflect religious and cultural values. In Western discourse, less clothing is often associated with freedom and autonomy. In Islamic contexts, more covering is understood as a symbol of modesty and dignity, intended to discourage objectification. It is sometimes argued that modest dress can encourage restraint and mutual responsibility in interactions between men and women. Visual stimuli can influence human behavior and physiology, and modesty is seen by some as one way of managing those influences. Despite this, women who dress modestly are frequently perceived, especially in some contemporary societies, as oppressed or lacking agency. At the same time, many prominent women in the entertainment industry have spoken openly about experiences of sexualization harassment and pressure tied to their appearance. Their accounts highlight ongoing concerns about how women's bodies are portrayed and treated in highly visible sectors. Let's be honest, a hot woman in a short dress looks more attractive than a woman in an abaya. But do we think about what effect it has on men's health, for example? Does it make sense to be attractive to everyone? The purpose of clothing is not only to protect against cold and heat, but also to protect against unwanted looks, provocations, and harmful hormonal changes. It is becoming apparent that the opinions of today's women are shaped more by everything and everyone than by themselves. More critical thinking, logic, and reason would give less judgments and prejudices where they do not belong.